Good evening. Saturday on Labor Day weekend. I hope you're getting some R&R or getting projects done, or if you're working, I hope it's going smoothly for you. I do a little bit of all of those things. I don't know, holidays, it's kind of ironic to call it Labor Day and then not to labor. It is a good time to belabor, I suppose. In the category of belaboring, Trump gave a deposition. You may have remembered that it was going to happen, but none of it was made public. And it was a deposition at the behest of the state attorney general in New York. And there's a civil suit pending, which basically claims that the Trump empire, and that's not the formal name, but the Trump empire is, misleading. And it's those old charges, in part, which is that Trump is enlarging the value of a property if he wants to get debt. In other words, wants to get a loan. He's reducing it if he has to pay taxes on the value of something that he holds. Now, obviously, when you get down to accounting and financial matters, this becomes a lot more complicated. Trump completed a 479-page deposition that is sworn under oath. Now, one of the reasons I suspect he did it in the civil case is that in a civil proceeding, if you refuse to answer a question, the value of your testimony can be questioned, in the sense that why would you not want to talk about that? What people say in a common sense way. And that is different than a criminal case in which you can always refuse to cooperate in your own investigation when at the end of the day the government, state, federal, is looking at whether or not you should be prosecuted. But in a civil case, and under only very rare circumstances like contempt, is imprisonment a possibility, and the fight is usually about funds. So there is this, I haven't read it, but I opened it to look at it, and it's a very curious affair, because instead of taking the Fifth Amendment, the right to remain silent on every question, they're going to answer some and not others. And that's a pretty dodgy thing. And I suppose what they're trying to do is run between the raindrops. That is to say that I can say I won't testify about this because I have to. It'll kill me on the criminal case. But I will testify about something else because I don't see any downside. And that's dangerous because you don't always know what can be used. Now, we see a similar thing with Rudy Giuliani. He decided not to supply discovery, similar but different approach. And the judge basically sanctioned him for doing that and awarded the judgment that there had been defamation against Rudy Giuliani for him withholding this information. And now there will be a trial, but the trial will be about compensatory and punitive damages. Okay, so now that's similar and different than what Trump is doing. What Trump is doing is, like I said, trying to have it both ways. Very dangerous theory, particularly when Trump is testifying, and the reports and summaries of his testimony are that whatever anybody thinks is his best, this was not his best performance. Now, there's a sad event, not a person I know, but someone we all enjoyed publicly. He once said, "I'd rather not die while I'm living than live while I'm dead." Obviously, he's having some fun with that, which is to say, I'm going to get it in this world. And when I say he is, I'm talking about Jimmy Buffett. He died at, I believe, 76. And it's kind of ironic in terms of what caused the death. And we all do this. We all have our own poisons. In his case, his exposure to sunlight may have caused him to have skin cancer, which ultimately became a poison in his system and ultimately led to his death. At first, this morning, no one said what the cause of death was, and I suppose they wanted to understand what it was to say it right. And it's kind of interesting. Paul McCartney to salve the grief of a dying family member and marvelous entertainer, Jimmy Buffett. He went to Jimmy Buffett and his family and his friends, and he sang for them. He sang for Jimmy in his final hours. Now there's a good person, don't you think? Sweet. So Holly and I, we had errands anyhow, but we decided we would have an outdoor brunch at 11:30 so that we could celebrate his Margaritaville. And I had a small margarita, Holly did not. And we both try to avoid alcohol just because of, well, Holly shouldn't, and I don't need to. And whatever helps each of us do what we think we need to do, we do that. So, but occasionally, like today, I had a margarita. And it's funny, somebody walked by because at the time I turned my phone on, I played Margaritaville, and this couple walked by and they said, "How appropriate." You know, they were going into the same restaurant. So it's nice if people feel these things about a worthy entertainer who became a billionaire. And one of his trademarks was being out in the open air and sun and so forth. And like whatever our poison is, it can catch up with us, and does. My dad smoked since he was a kid. He died of lung cancer. So we all go through things and choices and don't always appreciate them until we're at this age. No, there was another death, and I have a mixed feeling about it. Bill Richardson, who you may remember, was from New Mexico, and he was very strong with the Trumps, but I'm sorry, I said the Trumps. I don't know why I'd say that. Maybe it's because implicit in my thinking, I'm about to criticize him. But he was tight with the Clintons. But he lost a position in their administration because of a pay-to-play accusation, which never ultimately resulted in charges. But when Obama ran, he turned, well, against the Clintons, and he supported Obama. Now, people are entitled to do whatever they want, but sometimes decisions like that, I don't know, look bad. That aside, he did some wonderful things for people who are trapped in these hostage situations around the world, including the recent Olympic athlete who was brought back from Russia. So I have mixed feelings about him. If you don't have to say anything bad about a person, then don't. But sometimes you have to say things. And I think that for all of his assets, there was a weakness in his character, which was unfortunate. Talking about Maui, this is going to be interesting for a long time, and I haven't been on the island for a long time. But when I was there, I spent a fair amount of time on the east side of the island, where they have these rainforests, beautiful rainforest, thick limbs reaching down all around you. Had to be careful about running in the rainforest, which I did, because at some turns there's a drop off in front of you hundreds of feet, and there are waterways making their way through these forests. And I'm not sure of this, but there are people who live sort of toward the middle of the island on the northern part that are latter-day hippies, or people who just want to embrace the nature. Now, the recent troubles on Maui came to the west, the side that's closer to the mainland. And 8 months ago, I believe I have that right, the governor of the state warned that the grass they were getting was non-native invasive, it was very dry, and it was putting at risk that part of the island. Now keep in mind that the fires happen on the western part of the island, and they happen in the civilized part, and they happen where these grasses were found. Now, I mentioned before that the Great Dust Bowl in 1920 was also about grass. That is, trying to plant crops, including grass, that wasn't suited to the amount of moisture that could be supplied in the region. And this is before we were really thinking about global warming. So there they have in Hawaii this situation. And now the people are saying, well, what are we going to do? Well, the answer appears not going to do anything. And if Holly and I were in Maui, we would move eastward if we were going to stay on the island or leave it entirely. Because to rely on politicians to do what's necessary here, when they haven't for so many years, when they haven't for the 8 months after the governor said, watch out, because Lahaina is at risk, and they did nothing about it. How can they be that way? So it does seem that if there's one thing we're dealing with, it is a lack of resolve, a lack of thought, a failure to care to make things safer or better when we know what the dangers are. There's a missing of adventure. That is, to do something that'd be critical to people and to the planet, for our survival even, and we're not doing it. It's just remarkable. And you see individuals, people, communities, groups doing so much in so many areas. How is it that we have elected officials, government officials, goo-goo groups, scientific groups, all of whom just are a penny short and a day late? And that's what we have to deal with. We have to get leaders who are prepared to actually be enthused, challenged to make a difference. Every once in a while you hear the cure for cancer. Well, I don't really know what we're doing, but is the cure for cancer in part what we spread in the air and the water, the things we touch, the products we use? Because we don't want business to actually have to shoulder the risks to us individually, because they want to take it as profits, and we are the basis of the profits they have for the illness we get. It's a pretty depressing way to think of how our government is working as opposed to how it's supposed to. Our Constitution talks about we the people joining together, and one of the phrases is for the general welfare. Well, this is not for the general welfare, what we're doing. You can take it on the justice side, what we're doing with Trump. We're finally sort of edging toward what is the right thing for the general welfare. The environment, how about prescription drugs for people who can't afford it and who are dying? What about feeding the hungry in America? How about those who are homeless? What do we say? Dwelling insecure, food insecure, psychological insecure. What it is we have leadership insecure, unfathomably so, not willing to make the difference that's necessary to fulfill anything approximating even a fraction of their oath of office. So that's my thinking this day out on the trail in my cathedral of trees. And I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend. And I may be out again tomorrow. Bye-bye.